Derek, we are live. I guess we'll wait a few seconds for people to tune in or join the stream. But before we get into this chaotic USMNT roster release day, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Usually, Brett and I would have some fluff we'd fluff around with for about 10, 15 minutes to get everybody here. But didn't bring any, unfortunately. But yeah, life's great. Can't complain. What a day it's been. I mean, when that originally came out, I think we were all pretty like, what is that? But the more I have heard, well, we've got some people giving us info like Brian Schroeder, Kyle Bond put some stuff up, made a couple phone calls. It's all starting to come together. So I'll be able to shed some light on some of the people missing and maybe even some of the guys that were included. So hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, and I apologize. There is no elite intro to get the people rallied and going before the anticipation is not as good as it normally is with you and Brett. So I apologize for that. But we're gonna give everybody a good show. Still, we're gonna talk this over. This is gonna be a place to I guess vent and say whatever you have to let it out of how bad this is, and we're gonna heal together. We're gonna heal together.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll go ahead and just pull this up. So today, obviously, they announced the roster for the two friendlies against South Korea and Japan, and very, very heavy MLS roster.
Is there any way we can blow that up a little bit more? Possible?
Let me see if I can.
By the way, Brett and I are going to be at the Japan game. So if you see us, say hi.
Let me see if I can do this and
save
this image.
Brett's like an expert at this stuff. He's like, oh yeah, boom, 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 blown up. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know any of that stuff.
I think this might be a little better. Let me see if this is a little better.
Okay.
Share.
Probably guessing the people. There we go. Whoa, hold on. Yeah, they won't be able to read it too if I can't. Probably.
Is this a little better?
Oh yeah, there we go. That'll do it. Oh, even better. Even better. All right. Yeah. So I'll let you lead.
Okay. So we'll start off with the keepers.
Yeah.
We have Roman Celentano, Matt Freese, who obviously started the bulk of the games in the Gold Cup and did pretty decent, I'd say. Like, not too bad. I mean, he was all right, right? And then Jonathan Klinsmann was by far the biggest surprise of the three keepers, in my opinion. How do you feel about this keeper selection?
Well, here's the thing about Jonathan Klinsmann. Yes, does he play in Serie B? Yeah. Does he play well in Serie B? Yes. He had a really good season. Had a chance to watch 5 or 6 games, watch a bunch of highlights the last season. Pretty darn impressed. One thing he's really good at, he's good with his feet. To the point where there were a lot of people when he first went to Germany, the Bundesliga, and they're like, why didn't you just play center forward like your dad? Because you got great feet. So there's that. Sorry.
Bless you.
Just sneeze. Oh,
bless you twice. Bless you 3 times.
God. All right. So let's hope that doesn't happen the whole show. It's still for me, allergy season. So there's that. Matt Freese we know about, but we don't know about 2 of these goalkeepers. And I should be really clear, and I'm going to say it a couple times throughout the show so people know this. But one of the important quotes you need to hear from Poch today was, this is the last camp to see new players. So for Poch, this is an experiment still for him, which I think is egregious. I think that's really dumb. I think we've got just a handful of games for the World Cup. If you don't know your basic 26 by now, we got some issues. And but he's basically saying, nope, we're going to try out a bunch of new guys I haven't had a chance to look at yet. And that's why Celentano is on here and Klinsmann's on here. And no, Matt Turner has not dropped to 4th. I would say that Stefan is probably out of the picture at this point. It's too late in the game, and he will not get a new look or a fresh look at Stefan, even though I think Stefan has the best save percentage in the league right now. I may be wrong about that. You might know.
I think so, yeah.
Sorry. Allergies. All right. So that explains that. Turner's not out of the picture. another guy that might be out of the picture is Horvath. So we're kind of down to these four. Maybe Brady, still anybody that he's already seen and doesn't need to see again might still be in the picture. Matt Turner is not out by any means at all. This is an experimental last chance to look at new people roster. So I want to be real clear about that. I made my phone calls. So I can pretty much explain every pick almost and every player that was snubbed or supposedly snubbed tonight. I'm going to try to do that for everybody out there.
Well, we have a super chat from Julian. He says, now we all know that the next manager needs to be American, either BJ or Pellegrino Matarazzo. I want someone who cares.
Yeah. Now, a lot of us think this is really stupid to continue this experiment this late in the game. I don't know if I'd say Poch doesn't care. I mean, he cried. I don't know. What does that mean? He cried in the locker room.
I cried before he came on here, honestly.
Was that something between you and your wife? Anyhow.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, does he not? I think he cares. Again, what level of caring are we looking for here? We say, okay, yeah, Pulisic probably cares. McKennie cares. They all care. But do they have the chip on their shoulder care? That's what I need. I need that. Does Poch have I got something to prove chip? I don't think so. I think that is going to be missing. I think he's already regarded as one of the best coaches in the world. And even if this fails, he can just go, well, look at these clowns I had to pick from, right? Or he won't say that, but everybody will think it in Europe anyhow. Well, look what he had to work with. God, So there are no long-lasting there's no effects or consequences if he has a bad World Cup. Let's just put it that way.
No, this is very short term, just kind of like try it out, right? What do you have to lose? That's right. Kind of the way I look at it. This is an experimental short term deal. But I will say I wanted to point this out. I forgot to mention this at the top of the show, is we were talking pre-show that there are only 8 games left. Maybe you said there could be maybe 8 games. It's probably gonna be like more like 6, but there could be 8 games left before the World Cup.
But not likely, but it could be. Yeah.
So they played more games this Gold Cup than they're going to play the rest of this cycle before the 2026 World Cup, which is a huge issue because that means that everything is kind of set. And to your point about he's wanting to, this is like a last ditch effort to see what people have to offer or what they could potentially do. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just not. This is I feel like that's already happened. Like it's way past that. You can't really be doing that at this point.
Yeah, okay? I'm shocked by this explanation I was given. Honestly, I was.
Because Derek, this is, and I think I texted this to you earlier. This is where I feel like you're supposed to really get your core guys and really start to hone things down and get that chemistry built. Like there's so many players that we're going to be counting on in 26 who have no chemistry, no relationship that I know about with Pochettino. And it's really scary.
Yeah. And
very concerning.
Also a manager who doesn't talk to the players. So I can't even remember who it was last on, but one of our big players. Why am I blanking on this? But he had to be told by an assistant manager why he wasn't on the team. I mean, that's crazy. Didn't talk to the manager, but an assistant manager. And we heard the same thing for Pulisic as well. Apparently since then, he and Poch have worked it out, had a phone call, and everything's fine and dandy. Well, I know some people will be, well, why call it Pulisic then? Because he's considered a leader of the team. That's why he's there. As is Adams. That's why he's there. Weah, I do think that we haven't seen Weah for a while, and he wanted to see him. Even though that's the one contradiction of all the things I've been told is that why is Weah there? Because he's at a new club, and he's got to impress his club. But it was explained to me that Poch wasn't as concerned about Weah's situation in France, that he'll find playing time at that club. He's not worried about that. But he is worried about some other players, and we'll get to that. Yeah, which is why they were left off. And he said he already knew who they were. Maybe he still has questions about what Weah can offer. Maybe there is something to that. So that's why he's getting this. Maybe he hasn't locked in his spot yet. I don't know, but could be. Could be.
Well, as far as goalkeepers too, I'm a little surprised by this selection. And to your point about Stefan being knocked down to like fourth, I thought he would definitely get a call up to this squad just to try to maybe see if there's one more. If this is the final push, then Matt Freese or Matt Turner is going to be the starter in 2026. Which maybe people already assumed that was going to happen. But Stefan, yeah, he's out, which is kind of sad because he has played. Not that he didn't get the starting spot, but I thought, which we'll talk about another certain player in the forward section, Josh Sargent, who we thought maybe was dead, left for dead. Like he was just completely written off by Pochettino. I'm very surprised that Zach Stefan didn't at least get one more Hail Mary chance just to maybe get a start versus Japan or South Korea to see what he could do. I don't know. I think that's probably my most disappointing thing. Matt, now that we've talked about it, Matt Turner not being on here makes sense. Everyone knows what Matt Turner is at this point. The most important thing for him was that he just needed games. He's doing that now. He's starting every week for New England. He's playing consistently. There's not really much you need to know about Matt Turner at this point. No. Just about if he's playing. I think that Zach Stefan not being on this roster, I know people might say this is a little dramatic, but he is 30 years old. I would say this is probably the end of his career. Like this was probably the last chance he really had to solidify himself and be on a World Cup roster. I don't really think that they're going to be panning back to him in 2030. So I think that's pretty much it for Zach Stefan. Maybe he'll be a backup, but his starter ship has sailed.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that Zach Stefan could do, because he'll be 34 next World Cup, is just impress some team in Europe. I think it's a little late for that. And he goes over a couple of years before the next World Cup and plays all season long for, I don't know, just throw out a name, Mönchengladbach or Frankfurt or whomever, and it impresses because 34 is not really that old for a goalkeeper. So, but I do think his ship has sailed here. Yeah. Unfortunately for him, he got injured twice after being called up twice. That's just bad luck, period. And maybe he's decided to call in guys seen, like Klinsmann, who has good feet, number one, and Celentano. I mean, I don't know. That's like throwing Jello against the wall and see if it sticks. But why not, I suppose, if you already know who Turner is and you kind of given up on Stefan, which is surprising. I was surprised that we thought he would be here to be given that. Like Zwatsky, who got injured when he was called up, I thought Stefan would get another shot. But maybe you only get 2 shots at that. First time he had diarrhea, Stefan, second time is some sort of injury or whatever. And that's it. They're like, we're done with you. All right? Diarrhea pants. We're done.
Well, Celentano and Schulte kind of remind me. They're kind of like one of the same to me. Like there's nothing crazy. They're all right. Now to close out the goalkeepers, I want to ask you this. Matt Freese, right? Obviously, I mentioned earlier he started a majority of the Gold Cup games. Even though this is kind of like the last-ditch effort camp was what we'll call it, last-ditch effort camp, coined that phrase. Can Matt Freese solidify his starting spot with this camp, or do you think he'll still be open even if he performs well?
Oh, he'll probably play one game, and one of the other 2 guys will play the other. That's my guess. And by the way, I just want to say I don't think Schulte's out of the picture either. So he's one of the guys they've already put the K next to as in known quantity. And so they're just looking at 2 new keepers, and they wanted to bring at least one solid guy they knew they could depend on, and that's Matt Freese, I guess. And anyhow, goalkeeper, while being the biggest, weakness we have, or one of the biggest weaknesses, it's really rather, it's here nor there, really. Whoever ends up, none of them are going to be world beaters anyhow. So I'm not too worried about that I am worried about it, but not in the sense that who gets picked. Like there's no standout keeper where I'm like, oh my God, if he doesn't show up, we're totally screwed. Right. So it is what it is.
Okay. So the defenders. Now I have to preface this, and you've obviously, most people have called Max Arfson the de facto left winger as well, right? He's he's more up the pitch than he is back, right?
Should be. Yeah.
So we have Max Arfson, Noah Kai Banks, Tristan Blackman, which first call up I think ever for the USMNT, plays with Vancouver. That's a very controversial pick. Serginho Dest, Alex Freeman, Nathan Harriel, Tim Ream, and Chris Richards.
Again, if this was not a last chance, last ditch call up thing, we probably would have seen Zimmerman or some of the guys we've already seen already, Miles, Robinson. But he's seen them, knows them, didn't need to call him up, wanted to take a look at Tristan Blackman. Fine. Does still have a lot of, and wanted to see more of wanted to take a look at Noah Kai Banks and see how he's progressed over the last year. Very little chance, I think, that Noah Kai Banks makes the team in the World Cup, but wanted to take a look at him. Arson, he really believes in Arson. This is not a joke, but if he's going to play a back three setup and play Arson at a left wing back spot and hopefully not expose him too much on defense, that's the idea at least, then he still believes in him as a left wing back. And not just, I don't think he really feels comfortable playing him at left back all by his lonesome. But that kind of gives away how we're going to play, isn't it? Doesn't it? I mean, it does. We're going to play three in the back. And the rest of them, Serginho Dest, you get no pat on the back for calling him up. That's just, you haven't seen him. So this is your chance to see him. But I do think Dest is pretty locked in, as far as I understand it, for this roster, barring an injury. Alex Freeman, rewarding a guy for doing the work last Gold Cup and maintaining some sort of momentum as far as the roster culture goes. And then Nathaniel Harriel is the one that just doesn't make any sense at all. Like, is this guy a locker room guy? Because not even Poch believed in this guy last window. He played one horrible game and he never played again. So what is he doing on here? That blows me away. There are plenty other players in MLS, for instance, you could have called up than Nathan Harriel. I could name a few, but you could name them before I could. And then Tim Ream, totally, not a shocker. He's kind of like the old grandpa back there with the wisdom, etc., for the team and the kind of the emotional balancer of the team. And Chris Richards, well, that's a no-doubter call there. He's got to get this back. It's very vital for him to have Tim Ream and Chris Richards there, because I really do think that right now for Poach, those are the two core guys in that back line for him. So,
well, I have a question for you too about this, which is a little confusing, right?
Yeah.
Is that this is supposedly a camp last ditch effort, prove yourself, right?
Yeah.
Then why are some of these guys here, not some of these other guys that we haven't seen play for him much?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, Chris Richards is here. We know he's good. We know he's the best center back on this team. He proved that at the Gold Cup. He finally had a run for the USMNT where you're like, okay, this is Crystal Palace Chris Richards finally showing up for the red, white, and blue, looking really solid.
Yep.
Why aren't we giving other people a chance? And people are going to say, well, who would you give a chance?
McKenzie?
McKenzie. I have said this. I'm sure most people have. This isn't breaking news. This is water is wet, right? The sky is blue.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Ream is going to be 40 years old almost in the 26th World Cup.
Yep.
And I said that after the 2022 World Cup that we've got to find our next center back pairing. And Tim Ream cannot be one of them because you got to find the future. I didn't think there was any way in hell Tim Ream would be starting in 2026, but here we are. He's going to be starting.
And, he hasn't really lost his spot. He's really good in the locker room. And if they're going to play a back three, even better chance that Tim Ream plays, honestly. Because one thing he can give you that none of our center backs can give you at this point is he can put a ball on a dime from 40 yards, 50 yards out. He can do through ball passes. And Poach values that, even though I'm sure he realizes he's a liability as far as playing on the shoulder of, a speedy striker. I mean, you're hoping he uses his wisdom and his soccer IQ to counter that, obviously. But he was exposed in the Gold Cup a couple times, obviously. So that's a worry. McKenzie, I mean, you put him in the category of, I know who he is. He's a backup. He's not a starter for this team. And now I want to see if guys like Tristan Blackman or Noah Kai Banks can take a spot. And as for Trusty and injured kind of CCV, big toe, didn't play this weekend. Probably the big toe. Could be something else. Could be herpes. I don't know. But, he wasn't available because he's not fully fit. So we'll never know whether or not they would have been called up because he hasn't got a lot of looks at Trusty, or maybe he did enough already, right? And he's certainly seen CCV. I'm not sure he was that impressed, but the big toe or herpes is keeping CCV from coming to the team. So that, for me, explains most of it. There are other things we need to explain here, obviously, which I'll get to later, as far as the snub section goes.
Well, also, I want to bring this up too. Tristan Blackman has been pretty good with Vancouver this year. Vancouver's been a very good team obviously in MLS, the Western Conference, but I kind of throw him under the same category as Brian White. Yes, they're good for club. They contribute, but they're not that level.
I agree with you. I've watched a lot of Vancouver this season because my team stinks. LA Galaxy is horrible. So instead of watching them, I fully admit at this point, I've been watching a load of Vancouver. I probably watched about 15 Vancouver games this season. I have a pretty good idea that Tristan Blackman is pretty reliable in MLS and has been pretty reliable for Vancouver this season. As has Brian White, and Berhalter's been fantastic. So maybe going along with the Vancouver theme, maybe he's had a lot of his scouts scouting. I think he has a lot of his guys scouting the Vancouver team because they're watching Berhalter and they're watching White, and they just also said, well, what about this guy? We also noticed he's pretty good this season too. Let's give him a try. In fact, I can guarantee you that's what happened. And that's why he's being given this tryout, this last chance to see a new guy tryout. Is he better than Zimmerman? Is he better than Miles Robinson? Can he bring something better than those two? Can he be the last string? Same thing for Noah Kai Banks. Is it too early yet? Is he ready? Is he not ready? He's looked really good when he's played for Augsburg. So maybe he is ready. Maybe we'll give him a shot and give him a look and see if we're willing to pull the trigger. But we got to get him at least one look, because next window we're going with that 60, 65 guys. 65, that's ridiculous. He's looking at 65. But you trim it down to 60, or even more realistically, 50 or 45. This is like, we got to start trimming that down here at this point. The next window has to be what you think is pretty close to your starting 26 or 23, right? It has to be.
No, I agree. And, speaking of Zimmerman, he hasn't been good in a while, in my opinion. And he was on the Gold Cup roster, didn't really do anything. I think he played maybe one or two matches. One player, and I might get killed for saying this, but one player that if we're just, throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? One player that I wouldn't have mind seeing get a call up is Matt Miazga, because he's been one of the better defenders in Major League Soccer since he returned to Cincinnati. I mean, if we're going to give Tristan Blackman a call up, if we were to give Walker Zimmerman a call up, why not actually give a guy who was considered or heralded as the best defender in MLS at one point, or at least the best American defender? If we're just trying things, why is Matt Miazga just completely excluded?
Maybe Berhalter passed along some information about his kicking his dog. I don't know. It's a really good question.
Pochettino's a cat guy, though.
It's true, but he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't like abusive animals in any way. So, it could be one of the reasons, but I doubt it. Matt Miazga is kind of an enigmatic character, isn't he? He can be thoughtless and, not use caution sometimes when he should. He gets cards, but then he can be really thoughtful and have a high IQ and play a really good games. And you're wondering, well, why hasn't he been looked at? I'll give you the answer. The real answer is that Vancouver has been scouted like crazy by the Poch camp. And he's had scouts at multiples of those games. and they just saw Tristan Blackman. They're not going to every Matt Miazga game. I can guarantee you that. So I think it's just a matter of out of sight, out of mind, really.
Yeah. Mr. brings up a good point. Member of the channel. He says the only reason I can think Poch has taken Arvston is he's planning on playing the 3-4-3, which is what you said.
Yep.
And I mean, he does fit that role pretty well.
Yep.
I guess you could say he fits that role pretty well. There's obviously a lot of head scratching plays he makes, or some bad crosses, or gets cooked in the defense. Yep. Arvston's definitely a liability, but just to wrap up defenders, I would say this. I would be absolutely shocked at this point, which it honestly sucks to say this, but I'd be shocked if Arvston is not on that 26-man roster in 2026. I
am not going to be shocked. If he's planning to have two setups, a 4-2-3-1, and or a 3-4-3, or I mean, he's played that different ways. 3-5-2 or a 3-5-1-1 later in games. He's flip-flopped around, but either way, it will be that he will not be on an isolated. He won't be playing in a back four if he's on the field. Let's just put it that way. And I believe that he really likes Arvston. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, my only problem right now, if we're going to play a back three, is we only brought 4 center backs. I mean, that's not a lot of center. One guy gets injured, you're forced to play 3 guys, the same 3 guys, for, the second match regardless. So if Chris Richards goes down, you're stuck with Tim Ream, Tristan Blackman, and Noah Kai Banks. Good luck with that against Japan. All right.
To be honest, if Chris Richards goes down, we're screwed anyways.
Right. And for people wondering about Jedi only played 45 minutes coming back from an injury at Fulham. Want to be really clear, that's why he's not there. Paredes is injured. Fossey's pretty much out of the picture completely. I don't think he's got a chance in hell. Reynolds certainly doesn't have a chance in hell making this team. Wiley is way out of this picture, I've been told, so that's not happening. So just to give you any of the fringe guys that you were thinking about, they're all out. They're not going to 2026.
So, okay, let's move on to the midfielders. We got Tyler Adams, Sebastian Berhalter, Luca De La Torre, Diego Luna, Jack McGlynn, and Sean Zawadzki.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling about that? Obviously, McKinney and Musa, 2 guys that...
Yeah. I don't think he sees Musa. I think he sees him as a winger anyhow, which is whatever. That's Poach. Poach can be Poach, I suppose. I think Sebastian Berhalter was a given based on how he played in the Gold Cup, and he fell in love with that guy. I'm not really sure what he's seeing at Luca De La Torre, who has missed some starts with
San Diego
recently, and doesn't seem to be like a lockdown starter for them. I could be wrong about that, but I tuned in, and he wasn't on the field. Well, on the bench. So I'm like, what's going on here? I thought he played pretty well for San Diego this season, so I was kind of surprised by that. And then,
he was.
Yeah, Diego Luna, again, born superstar of Poach's. Poach sat on that egg until it hatched, right? So question is, can he perform against a higher level club like Japan or South Korea? I mean, he had problems against Switzerland and Turkey and Mexico. So let's see if he can up his level, another level. And I think that's why he's here, to see if that can happen. McGlynn, a little surprised that he's still holding on to McGlynn. I know McGlynn's got some upsides, but, again, there are a bunch of guys that were left off we'll get to, and the explanation for why they were left off. Some of them make sense, some of them don't to me personally. And then Zawadzki was another guy that was called up last time that they really like, and he didn't get a chance. So he's given him the last chance right here. Zawadzki's got to blow Poach's you-know-what off. His ball's got to be removed from his body in this camp for him to have a chance going forward. So this is last chance for Zawadzki, who they really liked in their scouting. So don't ask me. These guys that are doing the scouting for him as assistants, what he's got, like 7 of them? Yeah. They spent a lot. I saw something from Max Bretos that he's seen like 7, 8 Pochettino scouts just last weekend, I think he said, at games at MLS. And recently they've been piling on MLS and going scouting really heavily, while Pochettino was in Europe watching Cardoso, etc. And we can get to the snubs if you want to. Now for midfielder, we could wait and just do all the snubs at once. Up to you.
We can hit on it, but I wanted to point out one thing as well, though, is a lot of these guys, hell, honestly, everyone on this list that actually played, they started off, if they played well in the beginning of the Gold Cup, they some of them just fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Luca De La Torre looked pretty good in the first couple matches.
Yep.
And then he just fell off a cliff. He sucked. He was one of the worst players in the midfield.
He
maybe
was
the worst player in the midfield. Tyler Adams was okay. Sebastian Berhalter, outside of his set pieces, really didn't give you anything.
Well, at least he gives you that, though.
He does. And
that's a lot.
He definitely is good at his set pieces. Diego Luna was good in spurts, but the biggest game of the entire tournament, he was MIA on a milk carton. No one knew where he was at.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Jack McGlynn, outside of the it was Turkey, I think he had the goal, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, and then he didn't play that much after that.
And then he didn't play that much afterwards.
So that one's baffling.
Yeah, so it's like all these guys didn't really do they didn't do shit.
Yeah. I mean, what do we see? I mean, I'd love to hear. I didn't get an explanation for every player, mostly just the snubs. Yeah. Really surprised by the Jack McGlynn one. That one was like, I thought he had moved past McGlynn because he didn't seem to value him in the Gold Cup very much. Didn't play him very much. So I don't know.
So I guess we can just move to forwards then, and then we can talk about the snubs after we touch on this. So the forward, Damian Downs, which I'm cool with because I would have loved to see more of him in the Gold Cup. I thought he had way more burst. He did more in the attack than Ajimong did at all, I think. I mean, just gave a completely different dynamic when he was on the pitch. Now, he didn't score, but you could just tell that, like, it's the eye test, Eric. You could just see there was a difference when he was on the pitch. Pulisic, Josh Sargent, which I'm very happy about. He's actually, it's like fool's gold almost. Hopefully we're not having the rug pulled from under us again. But Josh Sargent looks really good for Norwich right now. I can't remember. I think is it three goals in 3 games or 4 goals in 4 games?
4 games. Yeah.
Yes. So he's looking really good. Now, obviously, you and me and any USMNT fan wish he would have taken that move to the Bundesliga this summer. But it seems like he's hell-bent on going to the Premier League, which I think is...
No, he's not.
I thought he was.
No, he's not going anywhere. He's staying in Norwich for now.
Wasn't that what his stipulation was? If I'm moving, I'm only going to the Premier League?
No.
Okay.
No. And I can tell you this as a backseat driver in this whole thing. I'm not going to give away my connections at all, but I can tell you that it was a family decision. His wife, I believe, is pregnant. They also have a 3-year-old, I think somewhere around there currently, and they just didn't want to go right now. Right now, they want to stay where they are, and until the pregnancy's over, child been born, then maybe he wasn't even interested in going up north to Leeds or anything like that. No. I mean, the Wolfsburg thing was the most tempting offer he had, and that took a whole day to talk with the family, his wife, about. He knows, I want to be really clear, Josh Sargent knows that was the right career move for him. Wolfsburg was the perfect career move for him. He's not a dummy. He knows that. He's well aware of it. And yet, for family reasons, he made that decision. So you can criticize a man for a lot of things. I won't for. But as an Army child, I'm an Army brat. I mean, we moved every 2 years. So I would have told him and his wife, you'll get over it. Trust me. Like my brother was born in Erlangen, and that move happened 2 months before he was born to Germany. So my dad had to go. There was no way around it. He was going to command a company. He was just a captain then on basically the front lines against the Soviet Union. You get over it as a kid. You do get over it, but it's too late for me to provide. It was never my place to provide that kind of advice. So I did not have anybody pass that along for me.
And he's going to be there at least. I would assume for the rest of the season. Maybe he gets moved in January. I doubt it though. I think he's going to be at Norwich at least for the rest of the cycle.
Yeah.
And then Timothy Weah and Alex Zendejas.
Well, again, we already talked about Timothy earlier. Could be the case. This is Zendejas' last shot, basically. He's going to get a look. He might get some playing time. Certainly Poach wants to see him in camp. Wants to see what he can do. They have taken some looks at him with Club America. They've been quite impressed. Damian Downs, this could be his last look too. So he's going to need to come in and impress, because I think and so will Josh Sargent. But I do think this could be a last look for both of those guys if they don't come in and perform. The sad thing is there's not a lot of extra. There's not the kind of midfield there that can get the ball and deliver it from the back to the mid to the front. So this could be, especially against Japan, a pretty ugly game. I mean, we will see. I could be wrong. It could be that Sebastian Berhalter is made for this level, and Japan's just about his level, and he's going to compete and do just fine. It could be that Luca De La Torre, who I think was a good bench option for us going forward, could be good enough. I don't know, but this is an extremely technical and gifted Japanese team. Let's just say that. South Korea, a little less so, but still will give us issues for sure.
No, I agree. And real quick before I get back into forwards, I just want to say we got 100 of you guys in the chat. Make sure you give us a like down below if you haven't already. I'm going to put Straight Red Cards channel in the description. I forgot to do that before, so that way you can go check out Derek and Brett. They have one of the best USMNT podcasts. It's definitely the funniest one. So I'm going to put that in the description too after the video so you guys can check them out. But make sure you give us a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos or live streams, especially with our good friends like Derek. But as far as forwards, I agree. Damian Downs probably is like last-ditch effort. It definitely is with Josh Sargent. We talked about that, right?
Yeah.
It is the same thing with Zendejas. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too mad with the forwards. Like, okay, before we get to the snubs, I want to ask you this. If we had to group it as disappointment call-ups, which group would you say has the most disappointing list of call-ups by position? Would you say it's
I mean, it's midfield, but at the same time, I'm like, I can't be disappointed, because now I know I'm disappointed in Poach, okay? Because he decided to make this the last camp to see new players, right? That's his decision. I can't really blame the players for saying yes to the call-up to get that last look. But, yeah, I'm disappointed in Poach's general idea that this is not time to start figuring out who your 26 is, your real 26, and still continue experimenting. And for also screwing up the Turkey and Swiss friendlies where you could have had some of the core guys there for those two games. I think this is a huge mistake. I don't understand it, honestly. We should be building as much as possible with these, what are pretty darn good friendly games that we've had. The last 4 or the last 2 and these 2 are really good teams, and we're just wasting them. Absolutely wasting them. I can't believe we're doing this. But so in that way, I think Poach he's taking a risk. He's saying it's a calculated risk, that he knows what he's doing, that every player has a plan. I mean, how do you plan for 65 players is what he's claiming. That's absurd. But if he does, he better be really good at it, because this could fall on its face. Absolutely.
I agree. All right, so I'm gonna give you a curveball here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Of all these players, right? And there's obviously guys who are already favorites of Pochettino. He likes, right? We know he's a fan of Arvston. We know he's a fan of Luna. I think he's a fan of Freeman at this point. Who is a player that you think is going to the friendlies are a little over a week from now. Who is one player do you think that is going to, I don't want to say emerge, that's not the right word, but like put themselves in a better position after this camp to make the World Cup roster that's not already a lock? Who is going to put themselves in a better position after this camp to be on the 26 World Cup roster?
Well, here's the tough thing. the tough thing is who's a lock, because it sure seems to me at this point that Max Arson could be a lock. It sure seems to me that Sebastian Berhalter could be a lock already. So, I mean, I'm going to leave them out of this.
Yeah, that's fine.
But out of the ones that are here, we've got McGlynn, Sawatsky, Klinsmann, Celentano, Zendejas, Noah Kai Banks. I'm going to add Damian Downs there because we just don't know a lot about him. Harriel and Blackman. Out of that group, I really think the guy, if he gets a chance to play, which I think he will, maybe one game, that could shine here and be the kind of player that Poch likes out of the back is Jonathan Klinsmann. Because there is no other goalkeeper we have with better feet than Jonathan Klinsmann. Matt Freese is a lock. I think Banks would have to absolutely blow Poch's butt cheeks off. Absolutely. I mean, his gluteus maximus will be in a different room for Noah Kai Banks. Could happen. It could, because that's another weakness area of ours, right? But what if he does play and has a bad game? It's his first time. And then there's Tristan Blackman. What if he has a great couple games? Who knows? It's kind of crazy. But I do know one position outside of center back. So it could be center back and it could be goalkeeper. I think that's fair to say where the real opportunities are. And I think if somebody really knocks Poch's socks off in either position, whether it be Klinsmann or Banks or Blackman, I think those top three guys have the best chance at somehow sneaking in here at the very end and making this team. It's possible. If we're talking about the real outsiders, not Berhalter's not an outsider anymore. Yeah. Neither, I mean, they're guys that he likes already and we know, like Freeman. I don't think that would be a surprise if he makes the team at this point.
So I would pick Josh Sargent, and the reason why is because I feel like most people thought he was out of favor with Pochettino. Maybe his run with at least the Pochettino era was over, especially when he wasn't on the Gold Cup roster, right? Mm-hmm. But with the way he's playing, if he gets a chance to start, I would assume he's going to start one of these matches.
Oh, for sure.
If he can just show something, if Josh Sargent. And I have to say this, Patrick Agyemang had so many chances that he just completely whiffed on. Mm-hmm. If Josh Sargent had nearly even half the chances that Bambi had, and I'm bringing that name out of retirement, by the way. I don't know if it is retired. I know that people are trying to get.
It's not.
If Josh Sargent had half the chances that Bambi had, he would have converted. He would have been probably the Golden Boot winner of the Gold Cup.
Yeah, for sure. If Josh Sargent got to play in the group stage at the Gold Cup, I think he would have bagged some goals. That's hard. That's easy to say, hard to confirm. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. We're not going to know that. At the same time, I wouldn't call Josh Sargent making the 26 team a surprise for me personally, because I believe in Josh Sargent. And I think he is the player that we're seeing at Norwich. And it's actually Poch's responsibility to make that player who's so good for his team at Norwich, kind of like Johnny Cardosa has been so far for Atletico Madrid and been in Spain. Like that's his job to make that work. And it's certainly their job, the players, to make it work too. But something's not clicking. Something's not working for either of those two guys who I think are, well, especially Cardosa in La Liga. He's showing something extremely special, is an American playing at one of the best teams in Spain, which is absolutely never happened before. He's got a guy. I mean, and I watched the games. He's a great player. So there are other players, but those two guys in particular, I mean, if they're not on the team at Josh Sargent as a third string, center forward behind Pepe and Balogun at the World Cup, that's what I've been thinking for a long time. So for me, although you're right, I was even saying on our show, I think Sargent might be gone. I think he might be a goner. I think maybe Poch has given up on him. Obviously not. So here we go.
Well, I have to point out this too, is that we both know, and everyone in the chat knows this, that Pochettino has a fondness for Bambi. Now, obviously, he's got some injury right now. I think something to do with his I think he has a hernia.
Yep.
But I would think that based on what we saw at the Gold Cup, Bambi might be the third striker. He just seems like Poch is, he's very favorable to Poch. He likes him.
Maybe so. Maybe. But
I hope that's not the case.
No, I don't think it is. I think you'll find Bambi will score once he's healthy, handful of goals, 10, 11. I think you're more looking at like Bright and Sargent scoring 20. I think that makes that pretty undeniable going forward since they're all playing at the same level. And it could be that he's only here because Adjiman is hurt. That's maybe possible. But and I don't know if you know how Adjiman got injured. He tried to pick himself off the ground. That's how he got the hernia.
Has he set the Darby County record for most fall downs in a game yet?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't got to play yet. So we'll see when he comes back from his hernia from picking himself off the ground. Then we'll see how he does. But I don't think that he will play. He will be a bust in the championship. I think he'll score like 10 goals, 9 goals, whatever. He won't be a complete flop. But as Downs is finding out at Southampton, it's not an easy adjustment to make. Downs is struggling at Southampton. So we'll see how it works out for the newbie. Like Wright and Sargent, they know that league. They know what they got to do. They're very familiar with their teams and their role on those teams. It's going to take Adjiman and anybody else just showing up some time to figure that out. Yeah.
So, okay. So we've talked about all the players who have made the roster.
Yeah.
And we got some quotes we'll get to in a little bit, but let's talk about the snubs because you've heard some things you want to talk about of certain players that are on this team and why they may not be on this team. So do you want to start by the positions again? Maybe goalkeeper first?
I think I'm just going to go down the list that I got.
Okay.
Again, most of this is, we already know who this guy is. McKennie. Yeah. Even Poach said it in the interview. We already know who McKennie is. And, he's fighting for a starting spot at Juventus. We're just going to let him stay. We know who he is. And that he also mentioned these guys are not out of the picture. So don't even think that. Don't think that. Tessman was not brought up, but again, I think it's much the same. I think he was fighting for a starting role, which I think he's solidifying at Lyon. Some guys watching, this is my stepsister. More power to you, GGB. All right. Matt Turner, we already discussed. Matt Turner is a known quantity. He's not out of this picture at all. He's still in it. He's just testing 2 new keepers. Scally, not out of it at all. From what I've been told, still in it. He's well known. Is not being dropped because he played golf. That's what I heard today. If that were true, Pulisic would have been dropped too. It's not about the golf. So there's that. Musa, more complex. Musa, who didn't play all that much for AC Milan last season, a lot less time than Pulisic, still refused to call up with not a whole lot of reasoning. And, it could be this is just like, hey, you didn't want to show up, so we're not calling you up because you had no real reason to need rest. Although it could be a personal situation, so I don't know that for 100% sure. Cardoso, they know who he is. I think they're pretty confident in him. We just watched Poach there watching a game against Espanyol. And I think he's thoroughly impressed with him. And I don't think you'd bother to go watch. I mean, unless he was there for Espanyol, which that'd be weird if that's all he was there at the game for. I think he was there to also watch Johnny Cardoso, who was really good in that game. So in the first half this was earlier. So anyhow, Brendan Aronson, they know who he is. No need to see any more of him. For now, Aiden Morris. Here's one where Poach may have just not be paying attention too much, and his scouts may not be, his assistants. Aiden Morris has had a great start of the season. He's been man of the match twice for Middlesbrough. He was the best player on the pitch versus Norwich last weekend, better than Josh Sargent even. And so this one I got no explanation for because, by the way, I didn't get to run down the whole list of the players. I was just, here's this one, they gave me this one, they gave me that one, they explained this one. I didn't get the Aiden Morris explanation, and I didn't ask because it wasn't on the top of my cap at the time. But I thought of it later, and I said I should ask about Aiden Morris, because if they're not paying attention to what Aiden Morris is doing, then that's kind of criminal. Although it is another player who has played for Poch already. So maybe he feels like he knows Aiden Morris. John Tolkien, he might be, since he's at 2 Bundesliga now, he might just be off the map totally. I think he may be done and doesn't have a chance, although he's scored 2 goals already for Holstein Kiel this season. So it's like, don't forget about Tolkien, please. But he had him in camp and didn't play him, so barely. Busio, I think, is out of the picture completely. Gio Reyna, we all know his situation. That's not a snub. The guy just joined a new club. He needs to, smooth his way in there. I did already talk about Johnny Cardoso. I think he's totally in the picture. He's not out of the picture at all. He's so important that Poch, who doesn't actually visit any players in Europe and watch their games, went and watched Johnny play again against Espanyol. And I'm hoping that's not just because Poch is a former Espanyol player, but we shall see. And then the mystery player. Did you hear about the mystery player?
Who's the mystery player?
There's one player missing from this roster that hasn't been called up yet, and they were not named today because it's still being worked out, which means this has got to be a dual nat. Yeah. It's not. It could be only 2 people in my mind. There's only 2 guys, and it's not Nathaniel Brown, unfortunately. Because who's injured, so he wouldn't be here anyhow. Actually, he's not injured, so it could be Nathaniel Brown. He did just play last weekend. But I'm hearing it's Koleosho or Chase, and I'd be really surprised if it's not Koleosho at this point. Although I don't know what Koleosho did to earn it. He played like garbage in the championship last season. He was completely benched for the majority of the season, barely got to play because he was so garbage. And now he's off to Espanyol. Oh, wait a minute. He's off to Espanyol. Oh, wait a minute. He's off to Poch's old team. Oh, connections. I mean, that's the only thing that I've been told is it's probably Koleosho. So just get warned for that. I'd love it to be Nathaniel Brown, but Nathaniel Brown's just coming back from injury, so I'd be surprised by that. And if it were Henri Chase, I'd be shocked too, because he's not back from injury either for Salzburg. So it's just one guy. That's it. Yep.
I don't think you mentioned, because I want to touch on this a bit, Paxton Aronson, because obviously he just made a move to the Rapids. Are you surprised he didn't get a call up? Or do you think maybe do you think maybe it's because he is just signing with the Rapids? There's only 8 MLS games left. Maybe they didn't want to. I mean, maybe he just wants to play the remainder of the season for his club.
Oh, Aronson? No, he wants to make the 2026 team. He said it in his interviews when he was signed. I made this move back to MLS because I thought I had a better chance at making 2026. So, based on some of Poch's quotes today, that makes sense because obviously he took a crap on some of the leagues in Europe and said, MLS is just competitive. And he's right to some extent, but not 100%, especially after Paxton was I think he was, up there for the young player of the year in Holland.
At Utrecht. Yeah, I think he was. I think he was the runner-up, or maybe he won it. I think he was either he won it or he was runner-up. Could
be. Either way, he played great, and that's the reason that Utrecht finished so high on the table. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had a chance. I was a little disappointed with the move, but that's a lot of money he was offered. That's a lot of money. And it's really hard to turn that down. It's kind of life-changing money. It's, future generation type money. So he's going to take that money. and he did. And I don't know if it was the right decision. I don't even know if Colorado, that could turn out to not be the right decision for them too. But we'll see about that. I don't think Paxton Aronson is really in the picture for 2026. I think he needs to probably start thinking about 2030. And if that is a reality, and if I am correct on that, then moving to Colorado in the long run could be more hurtful than helpful. So that might have been a bad move on his part, especially with all the nice things they're saying about him at Frankfurt before the move. So
yeah, I was kind of like, I was disappointed, but like not crashing out saying that,
right.
What the hell were they saying? Like that these youth players that for the USMNT need to like be pulled out of the academies of the USMNT and leave because of this tragedy and stuff. There was some crazy stuff online about moving back.
Right.
I'm not to that point or anything. It's disappointing because I think he actually had a pretty decently high ceiling, and I don't think we didn't see anywhere close to the best version of him.
His teammates did, by the way. His teammates were quoted that he was one of the best players in training and in practice.
And just think of how much better he possibly could have been if he had moved to a top 5 league or eventually, got more minutes
at Frankfurt.
At Frankfurt. Yes, exactly. So it's a little disappointing, but you can't blame him for taking the money. That at the end of the day, they do this for a job. And if they're offering you that type of money, like you said, generational wealth, I can't blame him for taking it. It's just a little disappointing. Now, as far as comments, right? And I think that's an interesting thing. So I got this thread pulled up. I want to go ahead and pull this up. This is from Kyle Bond. Let's see here.
Oh, yeah, about the interview with
Pochettino.
With yeah.
Yes. Let me see real quick.
So we can get this big enough to see.
Might have to get the readers out or something. Let me see here.
I haven't bought readers yet, but I should.
Can you see this? Is this too small?
Nope, that's big enough.
Okay, so he started off. He said Mauricio Pochettino is speaking after the release of the USMNT roster for September international break. This is a quote on Pulisic. He says, "We didn't talk with Christian. There's nothing to talk about. It's behind us. We have to look forward. We have a plan for every single player."
Okay, so they didn't talk to him. They're just like going to move on. I did get the there's nothing to talk about, it's behind us part, but I didn't see we didn't even talk to him, which is par for course for Poch. That's really surprising. I will say this, they can forever avoid any more of this drama if they do talk to each other. So there's an actual understanding going forward. That would be smart on his part. All right.
Yes, I think that's a little weird, but the whole relationship thus far has been weird. It's just been very, very unorthodox, like just not ideal. We'll see. Hopefully that doesn't limit our chances or bite us in the ass down the road, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And then Poch said, this is the last camp to have a possibility for us to see new players and new faces, which, we touched on earlier. He also said that players that started the preseason late that moved to a new club were left off to let them continue building fitness. And he reiterated, we have to plan for each player.
Yeah, he did say we have a plan for each player. And then he said there's 65 of them. Okay. All right.
That's a hell of a plan. Yeah, that's actually what he says next. He says, for me, all the players are important. The individual situations are important to analyze. We have a roster of 60 to 65 players of guys that we are going to be under assessment every week. For us, it's about analyzing performances and give a roster with good balance.
That's a big Excel sheet. That's what that is. I'm sure it's got many columns, you would think. But I think, go ahead. Continue. It gets more interesting.
He was asked about Weston McKennie. He says, we already know about Weston, which we talked about that as well. It's not necessary to bring him in. He had a short preseason because of the Club World Cup and now started the season last week. We already know him, and we wanted to give him the chance to be more settled in with his club because, like you said, everybody knows this. It's the running thing that Weston McKennie always has to play himself back into a starting role or an important role with Juve every single season. So it's rinse and repeat here.
And they didn't give him a new contract.
And they did not give him a new contract. Yeah. They're really trying to get that motivation, light a fire under McKinney's ass, which is a good thing for us, I think, because either, he'll sink or he'll swim. which is good.
Yeah, I think so. He needs that pressure. He seems to do well when he's pressured that way. Yeah.
Yeah. The season where they took away his parking spot in his locker was arguably the best season of his career.
Yep. I'd agree.
Took his number, his parking spot, his locker. Then he had the best season of his Juve career.
I mean, it could be that they've figured out you need to kick McKennie in the balls before the season starts every season. That's how he plays better.
Well, someone said in the chat earlier that he has no discipline. And I kind of agree with that to a certain degree. Like he is better when he's motivated, when people can kind of like light a fire under him.
He's not as chubby this season beginning than he has been in others. So that might give you some hint as to where he might be mentally. We'll see.
Now, on the goalkeeping situation, he said, at the moment, it's open. I don't have a number one. We don't work in this way. Player A, player B, player C, list 1, list 2, list 3. We have respect for all the players who can be called and all need to feel there's a possibility to fight for a place.
Almost sounds like Stefan still has a chance with that quote.
I mean, you would think maybe he does, but I honestly, Derek, I think the fact he didn't make this roster, I think he's in trouble. I just think he's in trouble.
Yeah, it is. It's not good that he's not here. Absolutely.
And as far as Gio Reyna, I don't think we even talked about. We didn't even touch on Gio Reyna at all. I don't think.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. As far as that move, he says, "I'm so happy because he is happy with this move to Gladbach. We want to see him happy because when he's happy, he has the talent to perform. When he's not playing, it's difficult to be happy and show your talent." Which obviously we know that's the case. If you don't play, you can't get better. You can't stay in form. You're not going to make the World Cup roster. This is a last-ditch effort for Gio Reyna to make the 2026 roster. I still think, just to touch on that briefly, I still think that might be a little bit of an uphill battle because there's only going to be, after he's not on this call-up, right? This camp. There's going to be 2 more camps. So he might have 6 games to get a call-up, maybe max after this.
He's going to have to do something amazing and pretty fast at Gladbach, which is kind of a big ask coming to a brand new team, trying to win a starting spot. Because, by the way, if they play him a few games, and they will because they spent some money on him, and he stinks, this is the Bundesliga. You're not playing. So if he doesn't contribute right away after 3 or 4 games, he's out. They'll probably ease him in. He'll probably get like 15, then 30. I don't think there's enough time. Lucky for him, he's still young, and so 2030 is still wide open for him. But he may have to resign himself to just focusing on his club right now. And if Poch comes calling, great. But otherwise, if I were him, I'd just say put the U.S. men's national team out of your mind and just go kick ass at Gladbach. Get your spot, win your spot. Yes, play.
Let the chips fall where they may, right?
Right.
I agree with that. Now, this is where it starts to get spicy, okay? This quote. And I'm going to say something after this that maybe some disagree with, but I think that actions are speaking this to truth. Poch was asked about MLS, and he says, we need to start giving respect to Major League Soccer because the players there have shown that they can play there and compete for the USMNT. It's not necessary to move from MLS to Europe because sometimes in MLS, under my assessment, it's more competitive than some leagues in Europe. And that got people really fired up today.
Yeah.
Really fired up today.
Right. The leagues he's talking about are Belgium, probably half the Dutch league. I mean, once you're done with Feyenoord, PSV, Ajax, I mean, there's a couple more, and there's always a surprise team too. And I mean, the bottom of the Dutch league is garbage. And I'm not going to compare leagues because they're totally different. Obviously, the Dutch league is super heavy at the top, whereas MLS is extremely balanced because of the stupid rules and the cap. So nobody's going to actually dominate MLS typically. There will be always a couple teams who just stink, like the LA Galaxy do this year, my team. But as far as competitiveness, yes, it's a much more balanced league, whereas Belgium, again, another league where you got 2-3 teams that are pretty good. And then the bottom of the Belgium league is just garbage. It really is. I'm sorry. It is. It's garbage. Same with Holland. So maybe those are the leagues he's talking about. Could be talking about Denmark. Maybe he's talking about Sweden, Norway. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe Scotland. I think that's very true with Scotland. You got Rangers and Celtic, and then maybe Hearts shows up one year, and maybe another team shows up the next year. But it's just those teams typically over the last decades that are good. And then the rest of them, there's always an also ran kind of fighting, but not really in the picture. So that could be what he's talking about. He's saying, listen, this league is competitive because the teams are also balanced. So it's a battle. Doesn't have pro rel. You can get into that debate. So it's not every game on the line means something. Although people do get fired if they suck. Coaches get fired. Players get let go. So there's that. You don't want to totally suck. But there are no consequences ultimately for the franchise. I'm not going to call them a club because they're not clubs. They're franchises. It's like McDonald's. So, yeah, I get what he's saying. And I get that players like Reynolds don't look any better since playing at Westerlo. I don't know what Yao's getting out of playing at Westerlo. It's a pretty meh team. Fossey, at least he plays on one of the better teams at Standard Liège, but really they play a lot of junk. At the bottom 7 teams are complete, 8 teams are garbage there. And then, you think about the championship. I mean, there are just always 5 or 6 teams, 7 teams in the championships who are just horrible. And that's why I think, by the way, that Aguimon's going to score a handful of goals because Derby's going to play those 6, 7, 8 teams at the bottom of the table, the championship, and he's going to score some goals because those teams are not good. They're bad. They're really bad teams. Yes, is LA Galaxy horrible? Yes. But they're just like one example of horrible, right? There are there's probably another team in the East that's horrible too. But generally, they shouldn't be getting blown out every game, and they shouldn't be horrible because the roster hasn't changed that much. They're missing their best player, LA Galaxy, but let's say that guy's not hurt. I think Galaxy's probably more competitive, and it's not just Peck you're relying on the whole season to do something. So, but it's a much more balanced league because of the rules and the cap.
Some people call it parity. I call it forced mediocrity.
Yes.
I guess it's all about perspective, I guess, but that's what I call it. And yes, the floor is definitely higher in MLS than the Belgian league or the Dutch league. But the one thing I was going to say about Pochettino that is surprising is most people think with the pedigree he has, the teams he's coached, obviously Espanyol, Southampton, PSG, Tottenham, he's very Europe oriented, obviously, right? That's where he's coached his whole career.
Yeah.
I never thought he would be as partial to MLS as he has been. And I think that if you really look at it and dissect it, you could make an argument, and this is where I might get myself into trouble and people might disagree, but you could make the argument that he might even be more partial to MLS than Greg Berhalter was. Because Greg Berhalter was calling up guys that we kind of already knew.
Yeah.
He's calling a bunch of wild cards that have, most people are surprised to even get called up at all. He is showing more of a lenience or favoritism towards MLS than Berhalter, than Klinsmann for sure. I mean, God, I don't even know who you could say the last coach you could name that was more partial to MLS. I don't even think Bob Bradley was as partial as what we're seeing from
no.
Pochettino.
He was very much your Euro-based focused guy, and we just didn't have as many players playing in top 5 leagues then. I think over the years things have changed. Obviously, Holland has always been to some extent a selling league, but now they are definitely a selling league. Ajax isn't what it used to be. Feyenoord, not what it used to be as far as keeping their players domestically there for long periods of time. In the 80s and 90s, that was the case. Early 2000s, still somewhat the case. Totally gone now. So if you're a great player and you're playing at the top of Holland's top 3 teams, you're probably a target of some sort of La Liga team or German team or the EPL. I still think Poch regards the EPL, Bundesliga, and La Liga and Italy to some extent as, we don't have anybody really playing in Portugal, so that's not really anything to discuss. I do think he thinks the bottom of the table in France is garbage. In some cases, he's not wrong. I think the top of Liga is very good, of the classic teams that play there. The PSGs right now, the Marseilles. But I do think that he looks at the bottom of France and said, well, that's total garbage. You could say something like that for the EPL as well. I mean, how good are the promoted teams in the EPL? Lately, they can't survive, and they can't even afford it. So I get what he's saying, but I don't think he's pooping on the big five. I think he's pooping on everybody else, honestly, and saying, well, he's not really pooping. He's just saying MLS is just competitive as Holland. It's just as competitive as Belgium. It's just so I don't think it's an outrage as Austria. He's not saying anything outrageous here, but the way he phrases it really sounds bad. So it's going to get people pissed off.
Well, I don't think that if it weren't for Pochettino's call-up history or what, since he's been the USMNT manager, I don't think that Paxton Aronson, regardless of the money, would have came back. Right. I think that the fact that he has shown I don't want to call it lenience, but he obviously has shown that like he said, openness to MLS players, that they're cool with coming back if that's the case. That maybe that's I was gonna say real quick that maybe that's why Diego Luna hasn't pressed as hard for a move, but I've also heard that RSL wants like $15 million for him. That's like the starting point for Diego Luna.
Yeah, that's too high.
That's too high, I would say, as well. But there's not really a pressing need to leave if he's going to make the World Cup roster at this point. There's not really, he's good.
I want to take on two things here. Number one, in the end, as we pick the final roster for 2026, I think if we have any more than 5 or 6 MLS players, something's gone really wrong. Something's gone really, really wrong. And 3 of those could be goalkeeper. All right. Which leaves you 3 others across the field. And that'd be like Berhalter and Arfson and maybe Friedman. I don't know. If it gets, and Luna, if it gets beyond that, and that'd be 7, then something's gone really wrong here. Okay. So I hope we get there, because if not, we are ignoring the Tessmans and the Scallies and the McKenzies, the Cardosos, and the Haji Wrights, and the Aiden Morrises of the world. By the way, some of who played in MLS, it's not an MLS thing, then we are in big trouble. If Aiden Morris doesn't get a look going forward, then they're simply not watching his games. He's been fantastic for Middlesbrough. And yet McGlynn makes the team instead of Morris. That'd be a crime. I think Morris was one of the best Americans in MLS when he was in MLS, and that's why he's playing at Middlesbrough and why he's their best player for 2 games at least this season. So if we get to that point, we got a real issue. Now, this whole other issue of there's an MLS quota, I just want to remind people that when Berhalter was coach, there was like 2 MLS players on those rosters. 2. And Callahan, 2 or 3, best. Sometimes 1. Okay? There is no quota. There's not a quota. If there were, then it would have been inflicted on Callahan especially, because he's just a guy who taken over for Berhalter, his assistant coach. He certainly would have been pressured to play more MLS guys, and he said no. And then we have Berhalter, who certainly, as a former manager in MLS, would think would have an MLS bias, and he didn't. And he picked who he wanted. I think that Poch is picking who he wants. And he might be living in a world where in Argentina, for instance, there are many guys from the domestic league who get called up for the Argentinian national team. and they play on River Plate, etc., Boca Juniors. Maybe this is something he thinks is normal. It's not been normal here for a while. So he's bucking a trend at this point, not, playing along with a trend that's been going on for some time, because it hasn't been. MLS players have seen fewer and fewer and fewer call-ups for our big tournaments than ever before. So unless in his contract it says somewhere that he's got to do this, which I don't think, because his immediate original call-ups also had very few MLS players. I think he just got pissed off at the lack of performance and angry and upset about it and said, I'm going to make a point here. And then he sent his scouts out to MLS and said, find me some guys that can play so I can send these other guys a message. I want to send a message to these other dudes. And then the scouts are like, well, these guys are actually pretty good. So now he's met them. He's had a full month with them. Sometimes this is the second time he's seen some of them. And he likes some of them now. Freeman, Berhalter, Arson, and whatever goalkeeper he ends up picking will be from MLS. So, and Luna. I always forget the name Luna. I don't often throw him in with, because I think Luna's making this roster. I do, in 2026. I think that's almost a given at this point. He's the bloody nose hero, the broken nose hero, right? That's a little much too, by the way, all the media he was given for being the next rising star. Can we just back off and let this kid continue to grow? He's not done yet. He's got a lot of work to do still. And I like him, but he's got work to do.
Well,
sorry for the rant.
No. A lot of people are saying you took the words right out of their mouth. Yeah, and see, that's one thing I remember talking to Adam about this, our good friend Adam Turner.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't be mad if he did this, because I think that some of these guys are entitled and they needed a wake-up call. Some of these stalwarts that's on the team, right? Some of the guys are getting consistent call-ups no matter what their form is. They're just guaranteed a spot.
Yeah.
I think my biggest concern is that some of the guys who play in the Gold Cup are going to have more appearances who should not be starting. I have to preface that. They should not be starting. Some of these guys are going to end up having more caps for Pochettino than some of the main guys like Arston. Now, it's just maybe this one is a unique situation, but Arston is going to have way more games under Pochettino than Jedi is by the time the World Cup rolls around.
I understand that, but at the same time, you do understand as well that Jedi's been injured.
It's just, and that's why I said maybe that's not the best example, but there's some of these, and that's why I say, like Max Arston, we both agree he's going to make the team. I just want people to realize he's going to make the team in 26.
Probably. I give him about an 80% chance. Yep.
I mean, I'm telling you, I would be shocked if he did not make the team at this point.
Yeah, I would.
He has a better chance. I know they don't play the same position. I'm just saying, though, he has a better chance of making the 2026 the roster than Gio Reyna does at this point.
Oh, Gio Reyna, I would put him at 10 just based on the situation. There's not much time left. He just got to Gladbach. He's going to have to win over a spot at Gladbach. That could take weeks, could take months. He's not fit completely, also, based on reports. Not completely 100% fit. Some people say, and I've watched a lot of games. Yeah, I haven't seen him sprint for a while. I don't know what that's about. Could be he's afraid to get re-injured. I don't know. Like, that gets in your mind. I remember Gooch talking about, Onyewu talking about after his surgery, he never was the same. Never was the same. I remember Gideon Zalalem after his injury saying, never the same player. I never trusted my legs again to not just something to snap and break. So maybe that's where he's at. And we've seen at least two big dramatic injuries for him that kept him out for a long time, where he's crying as he's being taken off the field. So it's had some effect on him. We'll get to see if this is a rebirth of Gio Reyna at Gladbach. I hope it is, but I just want people to be ready. It's not a guarantee. If he doesn't go out there and ball, he's off, because Gladbach isn't going to be wanting to struggle to stay up or stay in the midfield. They'd like to compete for something. And if he doesn't bring it all, he's not going to be a starter. So this is on Reyna now. And like I said, he would have to absolutely destroy it and kill it to make this team in 2026. And is it possible? Absolutely. We might 8 games and later, 6 games into the season, where has an opportunity to play. He might be killing. He might be scoring goals, giving assists, and then, Poach is going to have to reconsider. He's going to have to reconsider because Tillman can't be the only, option at CAM or, his double 10 thing that he likes to do. Can't be the only 10 option for him. So,
we had a super chat by Spencer. He says, Mihailovic would be a decent call-up relative to these midfielders. What do you think about?
I mean, Miljevic has got a pair of balls the size of an elephant, which is what I love about him. So, you disappeared. Okay, we're still going. Anyhow, great player, good player, not great. Rumors he was going to Russia, not happening. And I think generally, I don't think he has much of a chance at making the lineup and the roster. As much as Poach might like Miljevic, I don't think he has a chance at making the team. Let's keep it at that. I think that he brings a kind of roughness and rawness that we might need on the team. And he is having another really good season at Huracan, but I think it's outside. It's an outside the box kind of pick. It could happen, but that'd be really weird because he's not called up here. So
as far as other quotes from Pochettino, I think this is kind of ends it here with Tristan Blackman. Someone asked him about him getting called up. He said, I don't know if Canada were talking to him, but I think there was a rumor that Jesse Marsch was trying to recruit him to play for Canada.
Mm-hmm.
He is a player we have been assessing, and now is a possibility to call him in and see. He's having a fantastic season and has the characteristics to fight for a place. We want to see how he is.
And when he says fight for a place, that's over, I think, Zimmerman or Trusty or Miles Robinson, or that last spot, the last couple spots at CB. I'm guessing we'll bring 5, maybe 4, but probably 5. That would be my guess, because since he's probably going to play a back 3 at some point. So they're all fighting for those last 2 spots, and I think it wouldn't be outrageous if he has a really good friendly window. I think he might fight his way over the Zimmermans and the Miles Robinsons, because they have scouted the holy hell out of Vancouver, all right, over the last season, especially when they were on their great run. Apparently, there was always somebody there scouting Berhalter, but then they noticed Brian White, and then they noticed Tristan Blackman. So whoever the one scout guy that's been assigned to the Northwest, if you will, that guy really loves him some Vancouver. And I do too. I have actually enjoyed watching Vancouver play this season instead of watching the Galaxy. So I'll say I've become a Vancouver sucker. And I do watch them more than I watch my own team, because watching my own team is painful.
Breaking news: Derek Ritchie is moving to British Columbia. Just to let you guys know, British Columbia. He's relocating to the Pacific Northwest. No, but I think that, I saw it pretty unanimously that people were down on this roster, Derek, and just don't feel very good. I have been watching the USMNT religiously since 2010. And I know a lot of people have been watching longer than me, but I can honestly say, and there's been some moments where we've been down pretty bad, really bad, right? 2017, we were down pretty bad. I feel like I just have never seen the USMNT fan base so apathetic, lethargic, uninspired, and just dreadful than what they are right now. And we literally lived through 2017. I never thought we would see this again.
Yeah, and that's why when they made this announcement, it should have come with a quote from Poach. Not later in a press conference, okay, where I had a bunch of people asking me, where's the press conference? Where do I find it? You couldn't. It wasn't on YouTube yet. You couldn't find it. So I had to go to my friends who were at the press conference to get the quotes. That shouldn't have to happen. We shouldn't be relying on Kyle Bond. Like, that should have come along with the announcement of the roster. Hey, by the way, this is our last experimental roster, the last camp where we're going to try new players, and that's why it looks the way it is. Now, that's at least an explanation. It's still stupid, in my opinion. We need to start pulling a real roster together. The fact that you're still experimenting with very few days left until the World Cup at this late date, to me, is absurd. But at least it would have been an explanation, and I hope I provided that explanation tonight. I don't agree with it. I think it's completely ridiculous you're trying Swatsky out at this point. I think that's absurd. I think having Harriel back in the lineup, absolutely absurd. I don't care what goalkeepers you want to try. Go ahead. I don't care. And in some ways, I don't even care they're trying Blackman out at this point. I really don't, because he told me this is an experimental last chance. All right, you want to try Blackman instead of putting Zimmerman in there or Miles Robinson? I'm completely fine. Give him a shot. Okay? At least you let me know you're just going around, because that's what he's doing. He's going around. I see how I can mute myself there. So that's what's going on. But the fans don't know that. And for the first 3 hours after the announcements, 4 hours, we got people doing shows. We got Herc. We got Lawless. We got the ESPN FC guys. We got all these people. We got Tact and Pete doing all these shows with no context, because that interview, that press conference wasn't available to anybody. That interview that he did earlier with The Athletic wasn't available until after the picks came out. You can't do that. You release a roster with context. You provide fans cut. Otherwise, you're looking at this like I did the first time you sent it to me today while I was sitting around in seventh period. And I'm looking at with kids in my class. I'm teaching a class. I'm looking at it and going, you got to be crapping me. What is this madness? So I got home immediately, made some phone calls, and yeah, then it started to become clear as the quotes started coming. Oh, yeah, check Kyle Bond's quotes. Okay, I'll check those. And then, Brian, check Brian. Brian's a good friend of ours, or at least we've known for a long time. I don't know if he considers me a friend. We consider him a friend. Anyhow.
He's still getting to know you.
Yeah, after what? I've known him since 2011, 2012.
He's standoffish.
My mom did interviews for him, translated interviews with him, with Timmy Chandler for him. I think he should be at least a good friend at that point. My mom did 2 interviews for you with Timmy Chandler because Timmy wasn't comfortable with his English back then. So anyhow, yeah, I mean, we're going to see where things fall after people get more context about why this whole craziness just happened. This was not pooping on Jedi, who's injured, Pepe, who's coming back from injury, Balogun, who's coming back from injury, Paredes, who's injured. I think he's out of the picture anyhow. Malik Tillman's injured. I'm trying to think. Reyna just finding a new team. Musa, well, that could be a star because maybe they are upset at him. Who knows? But I think if you got the context, I think you are at least able to. You can be pissed about the fact that he's still experimenting like a mad scientist this late in the game. I agree with that because he is, but at least you now know what he's doing. He's what they call fiddling around. That's what he's doing this late in the game. So it's not that some of the players are going to be left off or they're not going to be ever to come back again. McKennie's going to be back. Testman's probably going to be back. Turner's going to be back. Scally will probably be back. McKenzie might even be back. Cardosa's going to be back. Maybe even Aronson. Haji Wright still got a shot at this whole thing. The only guy that I mentioned out of all those guys earlier was that I don't know if he's watching Aiden Morris. That's my one guy, Aiden Morris. So there we go.
I would be surprised if Aiden Morris isn't on that 60 to 65 man preliminary roster, but I guess we don't know until we'll see it. But
Yeah.
I just want to talk about this too. We talked about earlier, you and I have talked about this several times, that this was a wake-up call for Pochettino, or he's trying to do that, I guess, to scare some guys, try to show them earlier on that their spot's not guaranteed, and that they're going to have to earn it, and that you're not entitled to anything. But when you really think about this, and I don't disagree with that tactic, I understand why he's doing that, because some of these guys got way too comfortable, right?
Yeah.
But let's just say some of these guys don't have a wake-up call, Derek. And that some of these guys we're seeing right here are going to make up not most, but a good portion of the 26 roster. God help us, hopefully that's not the situation, but let's say it is. What does that do? What is that going to do to have a roster? Because, these are good teammates. These are team first guys. These guys that care about the red, white, and blue, which I do care about. But what does standing on your laurels mean if you get bounced in the group stage? Or you lose the knockout round? What is that going to accomplish?
In the end, kind of like Klinsmann did, right? When he got to the World Cup, he decided to play a very conservative game. Now, he didn't call it playing Donovan, and I'm not getting into that. That was a mistake. But he ended up playing a very sensible setup at the World Cup, because prior to that, he was always talking about changing the game, changing the way, not the way Americans see or the world views American soccer, because that's absurd. But he did want to advance the way we played as a team. He gave up on that. And I do think Poch is going to have to look in the mirror at some point and say, okay, I got all these guys playing in top 5 leagues. They got to be on this roster, or else I'm going to get trounced. We're going to get humiliated on home turf. And although, as I said earlier, I don't think it would affect his legacy, because he'd just say, well, look what I was given to work with. That's scary to me, because that Jurgen Klinsmann at least lives here, so he wouldn't want to live with that. Whereas Poch will just go back to Europe, where he lives anyhow right now, and just go back to coaching in Europe and just forget it. Jurgen Klinsmann knew there would be a legacy. Bob Bradley knew there was a legacy. Bruce Arena knew. So there is this concern, is how much does he care? Does he care? Yeah, of course he cares. And we said this earlier. But is he carrying a chip on his shoulder like he's got something to prove? And my answer is, Poch's got nothing to prove as far as Poch goes. So that's the worry.
And also, too, he could just right off and say, other than, there was a disaster, you could say, yeah, I'm just not a national team coach. I'm a club coach. I tried it out. It's not my thing. I'm better at club ball. I'm better at the day-to-day involvement.
He'll never say that. He'll never say that. He'll blame it. He'll never. Yeah. And he won't even have to say it's because of the players he was given. That will happen naturally. Europeans will just say, well, look what players he was given. Of course they were awful. He won't even have to say it himself. It will be said by others in the media, in the press. Hey, they say it on ESPN FC all the time. Stevie's constantly going on, well, look what he has. He's got nothing to work with. Craig, same thing. He's got nothing. What's he going to do with that? They're crap. Well, he doesn't say crap, but he might as well. So there will be plenty of other people to make excuses for Pochettino going forward, and he'll get another job somewhere, and he'll be fine. However, he might destroy the very core of this team in the meantime. And what should be a very promising 2030, when all of our guys are in their prime, could be a complete wreck. Hopefully not, because somebody will come along and save it, whether it be Matarazzo or Hertzler, both German Americans, or someone else. We'll see.
Well, I have 2 questions for you, and like I said, I appreciate you for doing this with me. And guys, if you haven't, check out Derek's podcast with Brett, The Straight Red Card. Like I said, it's one of the best USMNT podcasts that there is. They do shows every Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and they're funny as hell. And they got the best intro of all time, and they change it up every once in a while too. They got the new one; you got to check it out. And they got some great guests too. But my 2 questions for you. The first one, the Friendlies. Japan and South Korea.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about them? Obviously, we talked about how bad this roster is. Are you going to actually learn anything, or is this kind of like we're just going to have to go through the motions?
We're probably going to learn that there are 3 or 4 guys that were called up aren't ready. We're going to find out how good Japan is. I can tell you that because they're damn good. That's going to be a rough game. Brett and I will be in Columbus for that game, so if you're there, stop by and say hi. Yeah, it could. I think the Korea game could be more competitive, but Japan could whoop our ass. It's very possible that we won't be able to play through the midfield depending on how we set up, and it could be a rough day. So I'm thinking maybe loss and tie, maybe. Best case scenario, maybe a tie and a win versus Korea. But I'm not extremely hopeful about this because, again, when you screw around with your roster, this is, again, you're adding players that don't know dick about the culture, don't know anything about their other guys on the team except for they play in the same league you do. And it really depends on how many of them start. Right. If it's like a half and half, you would assume Pulisic starts, Weah starts, Sargent starts. Those guys all know each other. Do you start Luna as a CAM? I don't know. That's a good question. We will find out. And then if you're playing 5 in the back or 3 in the back, depending on how you want to look at it, who's starting that? You putting Dest out right and Arson out left? I don't know. I don't know. So we could be competitive, but I think Japan's a really good team. And if we go in there, and we won't, underestimating them, we'll get our asses kicked. We really will.
Yeah, I think we're going to struggle both games. And, our good friend Pete had asked this or posted this, so I was going to share this too. He says, and we wonder why we can't sell out stadiums. And, you touched on this earlier, and then someone in the chat said that, it's $800 for the family to go watch a game, a friendly, and this is who you're paying to see. There's just no momentum. There's no buzz with this team right now, especially when they put rosters out like this. And here's the thing. I remember one of the things that stood out to me the most because I was excited about the 2014 World Cup being in Brazil because it was in the same time zone as us. We were going to be able to watch it like normally. Like, no, we have to get up crazy hours to watch the games.
West Coast, yeah.
Yeah. I remember the game against Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. I think Wondolowski scored a header or he scored off the rebound. I can't remember exactly, but he scored like in the first couple minutes or when he got on the pitch. It was in 2013. It was like essentially this time frame, except the 2014 cycle. Right. And I just remember they were playing in Arizona. I think they were playing in Glendale, and the place was packed. Everybody was excited. There was huge momentum, and it wasn't like we had any world beaters on that team, and we were just like stacked. It was very, very average USMNT wise, I would say. There was more grit and heart on those teams, and I just remember the enthusiasm was through the roof. Everybody was fired up, and we don't even have that now. And we're hosting the damn thing in 9 months.
Yeah, it's tough. I wish I knew the whole roster, but there were some good players on that 2014 team. But yeah,
even some MLS guys. Hell, Matt Beasler was starting. Kyle Beckerman was playing quite a bit. Michael Bradley was starting, and he was playing he had just moved to Toronto before the World Cup, like 6 months before he was starting.
Yeah.
Clint Dempsey was starting. There was a lot of MLS guys.
We had some great players, but MLS guys, but we forget, maybe we don't forget, but Bradley played for Chievo, where he was just the absolute field general for that team in Italy. He played at Gladbach. Prior to that, he played at Heerenveen. Dempsey is a legend at Fulham. There were some good Jermaine Jones, Schalke legend. Yeah, there were some good players on that team for sure. Were there MLS guys? Yeah. Oh, I have to say, Beasler and Zusi both had opportunities to go to Europe and both turned them down because Kansas City offered more money.
They did.
Than the Bundesliga teams that were interested in them. So there were good players. I'm not going to say those guys weren't good players. They were good players. Did they have the light shown on them the same way this generation has? No. Did they disappoint like this generation has? No.
Real quick, though, I got to ask you this. Do you remember our group stage in that tournament?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So if we had that same exact group stage today, would we get out?
No.
But you could argue that those teams were better than they are now. That those teams in that group, because one of the teams won the World Cup.
Yeah.
Portugal, you had 29-year-old Ronaldo, who's definitely better than 40-year-old Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And then you had Ghana, who was a very good African team, right? That's one of the better African teams that there is. And that's not a slouch.
No.
That's a tough group.
Yes, it is.
We made it out.
Yeah, I don't think we do that now. And I just think it's a matter of culture. I think it's a little bit of the chip on their shoulder. All those players had a chip. They didn't just care. They had a chip on their shoulder. They had something to prove. And I think our guys, when they go to the World Cup, regardless, I still think we'll have a chip on their shoulder. That's when the chip arrives. But we need the chip now. We can't wait till we get there to bring the chip. We need the chip on now. We know you're all big-time players that play on big-time teams in Europe, but you need, when you come to the U.S. men's national team, to bring some sort of, I got something to prove. And what people are seeing when they watch the U.S. men's national team, they're not seeing that. They're not seeing, and you can see it on the pitch. I got something to prove is visible when you watch a team. You then can watch a team that clearly says, I've already made it. I'm already big time. You don't want that. That's not good. It's not a good look. Fans can smell it, and it hasn't been working lately, right? Like, we're not bringing a chip because we've already beat the shit out of Mexico multiple times now. So now we're going to stop having a chip about that too. We're going to stop having a chip about CONCACAF because we've already dominated now. Well, okay, that's fine. You did dominate, but those days are now over. And now we're stinking it up at Copa America. We're stinking it up at Nations League. So you tell me we're supposed to be on board with you? We're supposed to be excited when we're watching you play. I'm not saying you don't care. You don't care the right way. That's all I'm saying. I need to see, like, you out on the field going, hey, I still have something to prove. This team has something to prove. But what I'm seeing is a team that's like, oh, we already done that. We won the Nations League already a couple times. We don't need to do that again. No, I don't want to see that. But that's what I'm seeing on the pitch is I already did that. I want to see, I already did it, but I'm going to shove it down your throat and do it again until you get the point. Because I have something to prove as a player. There are too many players, and Pulisic, I don't think, is one of them, who are like, yeah. And I don't think Adams is one of them. I've already been here. I've done that. So we do need to still see a chip from Pulisic, though, a bigger chip. I need to see him even more invested than ever. I need to see that from McKennie, Adams. Adams, I think, usually brings the chip, but he's one of the only ones I can say consistently brings a chip. I think Cardosa, I think there are other players who don't know what that is, right? I don't even think they know what it is to bring a chip because they're not. Well, yeah, and they grew up somewhere else, and they're just players, and
yeah,
they should have a chip. Cardosa should be like fighting like hell to prove he's a starting center midfielder for this team. He should be bringing a chip. I want to see that. I don't want to just see you play hard and fight hard. I want to see you come out and say, I'm going to prove something today. I think that's what we're missing. I'm going to prove it to not only the coach and my other teammates, I'm going to prove it to the fans that I belong here. And that's what we used to get all the time. All the time. We got spoiled. And those days seem to be over. So,
man, that's depressing as hell. I'm not going to lie to you. But hopefully, not to be pessimistic or overly optimistic, hopefully we can get things back on track. Hopefully we can. I mean, I wouldn't say we're completely dead in the water yet. Obviously, things aren't looking great. But you just never know. I mean, once you get there, anything is possible, anything can happen. And we'll just have to see, how we do, how we finish, who makes it, right? Before we wrap it up, Derek, and I appreciate we almost went 2 hours. Do you have any final thoughts? I mean, you did a great job summarizing. You got me ready to run through a wall, but like a sad wall in a sense, but like you got me motivated. Is there any final thoughts before we get off here?
Yeah, I just would tell people, listen, the reason I'm able to get through day to day like this, and I've been a fan since 1984, is I've been through all the ups and downs, and there are a lot of downs. Try out the 1998 World Cup. Go try that one out. Try out some of the other ones too. There were some stinkers in there. It's been a long journey. We have come a long way. And MLS has come a major way. I mean, we had players playing for LA Galaxy. Yeah, I get it. He played in South Africa or whatever in the second division. We had guys on TV shows playing professional soccer in MLS. We've come a long ways. We got to keep that perspective. MLS is way better than it's ever been. I mean, that just doesn't get said enough. Instead, it just gets shat on all the time. But it's because people don't have context. They weren't around 10 years ago. They weren't around before Beckham. This league grew exponentially because of Beckham and all that brought to the league. And people don't have that context, so they don't really know. They just watch EPL and La Liga, and they go, well, those leagues are great. This league sucks. And then they got other complaints that I understand. Yes, low salary cap needs to be fixed. Can't be fixed right now based on who's on the major power players on the board at MLS. Because I can guarantee you this, Don Garber wanted to raise the salary cap a handful of years ago, many years ago, and couldn't get it done past the Revs and the other cranky old owners who didn't want to spend another dime on their MLS team. So what did he do? He actually created Tam and Gam out of thin air to fix the problem. And you may not like Tam and Gam because it seems like a pretty juvenile place to go, but he really had no choice. He had to get around the stingy owners. So he did it. He's made a lot of mistakes, Garber, and I've got plenty of complaints when it comes to the U.S. Open Cup with him and other things, but that he has tried to fix and remedy in the only ways he can. These old stodgy owners, they need to go in MLS. They need to sell their teams and get the hell out of the league. So we, like the teams like the Sounders, Atlanta, and other teams that want to raise the cap significantly can get it done because they want to. There are a lot of teams out there that want to raise the cap.
Miami.
Yes, and Miami, great example. Want to change what U.S. soccer looks like or what MLS looks like. As far as U.S. soccer, we know the U.S. Soccer Administration is still filled with some people who are more worried about marketing and more worried about other things, making money, than making the U.S. soccer team an absolute success. They think they're doing that, but they're not. They don't know what they're doing, I think, most of the time. And that shows. Their marketing is absurd and horrible. It's amazing they have been able to lose so many fans in such a short amount of time. I would say to the U.S. soccer players, don't bark back. Don't bark back at Landon Donovan or anybody else, Tony Meola or whoever criticizes you. Don't bark back. Take it and go out in the field, and that's where you do your talking. That's where you bark back on the pitch. Don't waste all of our time. It's great for me. It's great for Will. We got plenty of things to talk about on our shows because you bark back. Don't do it. Don't call people evil. That's ridiculous. And just focus what's on the pitch going forward. And I would just say this lastly, don't, and Will knows this because he's got a family. You've got other things to invest yourself into in your life. Don't so invest yourself in this team that it sends you into some sort of tailspin when they're doing bad. I mean, I can understand getting a little down, but don't go absolutely batshit about it. Just don't let it get to you like that. And maybe some of us who've been through the ups and downs and the roller coaster, we just know how to handle it. Brett and I, we've been around this, doing this for a long time. For us, it's like seeing that, done it. We're moving past it. We're just going to tell it like it is. And we're not going to let it affect our daily life, because your family, your friends, your colleagues at work, they don't need to live with a miserable you. So don't be miserable about it. So don't get that. Now, those of you who want to check out completely, I get it. It's depressing, but maybe you're too invested. Like, maybe lower your investment level mentally and consciously, but still have enough in it where you're going to keep an eye on it and you're still interested, but you're not going to, lose your absolute mind if this continues. And that's where you got to put yourself if you want to deal with all the crap we're all having to deal with right now, which is a lot of junk. It's a lot of crap. It's a lot of drama. It's a lot of ridiculous stuff. And now we're dealing with a manager where none of us have any fucking clue where this is all going to end up. And that's just part of the interest of it, but it's also part of the drama. And in some cases, what might disappoint you. So that's all I got. That was more than I thought I was going to give, Will. I got to tell you that.
Well, I'll say this, having standards is not a bad thing, because obviously you want there to be a certain level of expectations being met and stuff like that. But, as you get older, maybe I'm being too negative. I kind of have this perspective of go in with low expectations. That way you're not disappointed. And if they are met or exceeded, you are happy.
Yes. So standards, you got to keep those. Brett and I are not going to be critical. We're not going to stop being critical. We're not going to stop calling it like it is. We're going to continue to have our standards. I'm talking about emotionally.
Yes.
Emotionally, we don't overinvest. We've learned our lessons in the past that you don't do that. You don't do that with teams. You don't do it with the USMNT national team. You don't do it with players. I see a lot of individual investment in players. We all get bit by that. So if Kevin Sullivan doesn't turn out, but you're 100% invested in him turning out, not good for you. I did that one time with Zalala. I was like, Gideon Zalala, 90% invested. This is going to be a great player for the U.S. going forward. Didn't work out. Injuries. Plagued by injuries. So don't overinvest emotionally, but do not lower your standards ever. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Will.
Yeah. And we'll just see what happens. Obviously we thought that this would be a perfect storm for 2026. Maybe things get turned around. Maybe it will be, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
There's still some time left. Not a lot of time left, but there's still some time left.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. Derek, I appreciate my friend. Like I said, guys,
my pleasure.
You guys need to check out his content at the Straight Red Card. Him and Brett do incredible work. They have shows every Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Make sure you check them out. Also, if you enjoyed this stream of me and Derek, make sure you give us a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Don't cry yourself to sleep tonight. The sun will come up tomorrow.
Yes.
Everything will be fine. Hope you guys have a great night. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.
Later.